I'm Eric Barnes with the Daily Memphian, and welcome to the Sidebar, the weekly show on the community, arts, culture, and more. Today we're talking with Nick Barbian from Grind City Amp. So stay with us for a conversation with Nick. Nick, thanks for being here.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So do the quick version, stuck in an elevator. What is Grind City Amp? And then we'll dig into more.
Yeah, Grind City Amp is a 4,500 capacity outdoor boutique amphitheater that we're building at Grind City Brewing in Uptown Memphis. We're very excited. Should be opening up this April and hoping to get a few shows announced in the next few weeks here, actually.
And so if people haven't been up there, it's Grind City Brewery, and it's an amazing property. It's kind of hard to describe how cool it is, especially if you're like on whatever that road is. What's the road that leads up there? 3rd Street or what? You're kind of going up north, and it doesn't really matter. But you're like,
so you can take front into Uptown.
Into Uptown.
Uptown has redeveloped so much in the 6 years I've been in Memphis here. It's absolutely phenomenal. And then the location of Grind City Brewing is kind of perfect for what we need. It's scenic. We got amazing views of downtown Memphis, the Mississippi River, the bridge, the pyramid, all of that stuff. Yeah. But it's also in a fast developing part of town, which is great because we're very excited what that part of the city might look like in 5 and 10 years. Yeah. But more than that, there's limited obstructions for us building an outdoor live music venue.
Obstructions in the sense of like limits on what you can do.
I mean, we're able to point the speakers right at one of the largest lumber yards in the country. So,
Gotcha.
Of course, we're incredibly conscious of our neighbors at Mud Island, over at Mud Island, the community there,
right,
which is right across the Wolf River Harbor. But the way we're positioning the stage is away from that.
And the houses over there are kind of behind some woods, right? There's not too many of them facing, or are there some facing?
There's a little bit of tree cover, yes, but we're a little elevated once you get up over the water, and then a line of trees, and Mud Island's right there. But we're taking extra steps to mitigate the impact to those communities.
And so amphitheater, we're talking stage, grass, people bring their own chairs. You're talking about some built. Talk about how much structure and not structure in terms of the amphitheater itself.
Absolutely. So this is phase one, actually, of a multiple phase plan that we have over the next decade of improvements that we want to make on the site. For phase one, what we're doing is there's going to be minimal outdoor construction. We are doing cement pad. We're doing a Tomcat roofing stage. Sorry, it's a little probably.
What's Tomcat roofing?
That's completely.
I want to know now. I love lingo, so you're good.
It's a technical detail that's probably unnecessary for this, but it's a brand. It's a company that makes stages, bespoke stages. So we're actually having a stage that will be made specifically for this site. We're calling it a semi-permanent build. So we'll be able to build it in the spring. It'll stay up all summer long, and we'll take it down again in the winter, and the site will open back up as normal. And that kind of allows us to hit that sweet spot of providing a high-end, top-quality professional production while still being in phase one of a multi-phase plan.
Yeah. So, and then if we'll have 4,500 people, or room for 4,500 people is the goal. What are the other phases, which could all evolve? I mean, we're not going to hold you to this and, have you back on in a couple of years and say, you didn't build, whatever. But I'm just curious for other phases are.
For today, I'll focus on phase one. But we aren't going to be putting in permanent seating right away. Right. That is something that will come in the future phase. Yeah. We will have temporary seated, so I'll have GA, general admission, and seated setups. And I'll have capacity to do 4,500 in both, actually.
The goal of, how does it work with the brewery? Like, we did an interview with Hopper Seeley, who runs Grind City Brewery, which is there. What's the interaction with the brewery itself? Absolutely.
Well, the Seeley family are my partners in this endeavor, and they're amazing partners. It's a great family here in Memphis that's proven their commitment to developing the future of the city that we all love, right? So first of all, I can't say enough about the investment that they've made in Grind City Brewing and in Uptown and in Memphis in general. And this is Bill Seeley and Hopper Seeley both. Hopper is the CEO of the brewery. Bill is the CEO of Varsity Sports,
which moved its headquarters to the Snuff District area, right in Uptown.
Right,
which is amazing if people haven't been in that.
Yeah, it's right down the road from where we're going to be. So again, further proving their commitment to developing Uptown here. I just can't say enough about the quality of partners that I have in Grind City. Yeah. So we're 50-50 on. We're partners on this project. We're teaming or pooling our resources to take a great brewery and a great brand and kind of what I'm doing here in town and build a music venue that Memphis sorely lacks right now.
And I should have said that the interview with Hopper Sealy, that was on Soundbites, and Holly Whitfield did that. You can go to the Soundbites podcast feed and get that interview with him. What sort of bands? What sort of frequency? Let's start there. Frequency of bands as you start and as things grow. I mean, is it twice a year or is it every night? Like it's somewhere in between, I assume.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the first thing is we're going to be bringing back Grind City Music Festival, and we intend to keep that as a spring festival, and that's kind of our alt country, Americana, rock and roll fest. In 2024, the last year we did it, we had Whiskey Myers and Red Clay Strays and Charlie Crockett. Actually, Red Clay was great because when we booked them, they were a baby band. I was like, ooh, I hope people catch on to this by the time the festival hits. By the time the festival played out, Red Clays were becoming the fastest thing in that space, and it was great. And they've continued to go on and up since then. But so we'll bring back Grind City Music Festival, and then we'll do 12 to 15 concerts out there every season. Okay. We may not hit those numbers in year one as it all comes together.
Sure.
But that's the goal, 12 to 15 concerts. It'll be a private event venue. We'll be open for corporate events and weddings. Yeah. I'm hoping to do Grizzlies watch parties and all kinds of different events out there. I mean, we have this amazing space. We're putting the investment into the production. We're planning to make the most of it.
Yeah, it is amazing. Like I was saying at the top, I mean, I remember the first time going there and you're like, am I lost? Is this the right place? Because then you turn and you go up and one of the first things you see is is it the lumber mill next door with the massive building, or is that
it's a grain facility.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you see the grain kind of floating in the air, and then you realize, oh, there's this very cool space, like the building is cool, then there's the deck, and then there's this great grass amphitheater.
Yeah, and that grain facility was quite active and it was really, really working a lot 24/7.
Right.
People forget, I think, how these companies rely on the Mississippi River to transport that stuff. Yeah, but fortunately for us, it's now closed down. So we don't have that distraction.
Yeah, you don't have that distraction. I always loved it. I love the floating. I mean, I'm sure it drove people nuts, but for me, because I'm a weirdo, I always kind of loved that there was this active not manufacturing, but industrial thing happening as I'm sitting there drinking a beer.
Well, to your point, it really gives it a vibe.
Yeah.
And I'm on the same page, man. I'm all about it. I love the setting, kind of we're in town, but it's got this industrial vibe about it. Yeah. So, that kind of works to really fill out the setting for us. Operationally, I don't mind that it's not as loud and not as much of a mess.
I can only imagine. Yeah, I can only imagine. And the range of music will vary in terms of, you talked about the festival, but the however many shows you do, it'll be an eclectic mix. Do you have a kind of particular thing you're after? Or do you even know? And that's fine if you don't.
Oh, no, I have goals, and I wish I could talk more about the offers that I'm sending out. And I'm very excited to announce this first season and, put it on sale, hopefully in the near future here. I think the best thing I can say now is if you look at some of your similar 5,000 to 7,000 capacity venues across the country, and you look at what they're booking, that's generally what I'm trying to target as well. Yeah. It'll be a very eclectic mix of genres and artists, young artists, older artists. We're a 5,000 capacity venue, so we've got to really focus on doing a little bit of volume out there. Yeah. So with that in mind, you can expect some pretty popular and hopefully bigger acts. Yeah. And again, the Grind City Amp is, we've designed it to fill a missing need in the Memphis music scene. There really isn't a direct competitor or a direct professional. I guess what I'm thinking here is, the Botanic Garden's amazing. What a facility, right? Right. I love what they've done out there, and I love their partnership with Mempho. But it's not a fully active amphitheater in central Memphis. Bank Plus Amphitheater down in South Haven, another venue I do a lot of shows at. Yeah. And I'll continue to put shows into South Haven.
And when you say that, which I want to circle back to, but you didn't just come up with this idea. You've been a music promoter for how long?
Oh yeah, like 23 years.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll circle back to that. But But
since I was a teenager.
But again, how many does the garden, Live at the Garden? But how many does that seat or hold?
Oh, don't hold me to this, but I think they're 8,000 plus. Okay. But some of the challenges there are just the infrastructure that you have, but also it's the Botanic Garden. Their focus is being the Botanic Garden. Sure. Our focus is going to be being a fully operational music venue. Yeah. So again, we're just trying to fill a need that Memphis has. We believe that there's a demand and an underserved demand for really high quality live entertainment in Memphis at this level. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to fill that space and, book what the people want to hear.
We'll circle back to all that, but let me take a moment to do some housekeeping. Remind everyone that we're with Nick Barbian from Grind City Amp. We'll talk more about the venue and just music in general and live music in general. But I'll remind everyone I am Eric Barnes, and this is The Sidebar. It airs on WYXR 91.7 every Thursday at 11:30, focused on the community, arts, culture, everything in between. It's not just a radio show, though. It's one of many podcasts we do at the Daily Memphian, including our morning podcast, the AM/DM, with Natalie Van Gundy, who produces all of our the podcasts and radio shows and Behind the Headlines over on WKNO, along with Mary Casciola, our editorial director. We also have the Memphis Grizzlies podcast with Chris Harrington and Drew Hill, and our food podcast I mentioned earlier, Soundbites with Holly Whitfield. Soundbites also airs on WYXR every Thursday at 11, right before the Sidebar. I mentioned Behind the Headlines that we do with the folks at WKNO. The TV show airs every Friday and Sunday morning, but also we host the podcast version at Daily Memphian. All of our podcasts are on the Daily Memphian site, as well as iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get the WYXR shows, Soundbites and Sidebar at WYXR.org or on the WYXR app. That has all the shows on WYXR, including music and talk shows, all of them archived back. So it's a great way to keep up with what's happening at WYXR. Also, if you're not a supporter of WYXR, it is nonprofit, listener-supported radio, so consider becoming a member, do a one-off donation. That's what keeps things going. I should probably mention that Raised by Soundfest is coming up. If I'd written down the date, I'd tell you when. But if you go to WYXR.org, you can find the date for that. Steve Malcolmus is coming, and there'll be a bunch of other acts throughout the day at Crosstown for Raised by Sound. The Daily Memphian is also a nonprofit, but your paid subscription is what supports the Daily Memphian primarily. So if you're not a paid subscriber, consider becoming one. But that actually only covers about half of what we do at Daily Memphian, the largest newsroom in the region. We also have advertising and events and sponsorships, and donations cover about 20%, I should say, of what we do. So consider a donation to Daily Memphian. Recently on the Sidebar, we had folks from the Latino Chamber. We thought we were going to have one conversation because we booked the show a long time ago, but we had a different conversation, and it was really interesting and really good about impact of just all the impacts right now on the Latino community in Memphis. We also had Sakita Monique from the Jazz Jam pop-up series at the Center for Southern Folklore. That was great. She's a lifetime professional musician talking about music and talking about jazz, and it was just a great conversation with her. Coming up soon, the new ballet, Katie from New Ballet Memphis, who has got a deal to take over the old Humes School and turn it into an arts, how do I say it? Is it an arts school? Is that fair? A theater arts focused charter school at the old Humes Elementary. We also have folks from Playback Memphis coming up in a couple weeks. On Behind the Headlines this week, we have Justin Pearson, the state representative and also a candidate for U.S. House of Representatives. He's running against Steve Cohen, who was on the show last week, longtime Representative Steve Cohen. We also had shows with Josh Spickler and Cardell Oren talking about the federal law enforcement presence in Memphis. And we had Paul Young, mayor of Memphis, on a couple weeks ago. You can get all those as podcasts or as video, wherever you would like. Let me also say one about events. We have our big commercial real estate seminar coming up December 4th at 3 p.m. Paul Young, mayor of Memphis, will keynote that. He'll do a talk and then a Q&A with me. And then we've got a number, three business professionals talking about not just commercial real estate. If you're not in commercial real estate, if you're in business in any way, it's a really great conversation about all the things going on in Memphis, various trends, all kinds of economic development. So all of that is December 4th at 3 p.m. at the Botanic Garden. You need to get tickets. So go to Eventbrite, search for Daily Memphian, or go to the Daily Memphian site. And in the navigation, choose seminars, and you can get tickets for that. But we are still here with Nick Barbian from Grind City Amp.
Plan to be at that seminar.
Oh, good. Yeah, I know a guy. I can get you a ticket.
So much of what you just ripped through, I'm a huge supporter of it. You guys run some great programs. Go WYXR.
Yeah. No, it's great. I mean, just had our 5th anniversary. I say we because I'm on the board, but that I really just host the show. But it's a great organization. It's been an amazing thing, and that Raised by Sound Festival is really amazing.
Cool. Look, I think it's just another great sign and a key ingredient for what Memphis needs to really achieve. I think what we all agree is a high potential to be an amazing music city. Yeah. I mean, the vibes are here. The spirit is here. We just got to
Yeah.
pull it together. And I think it's organizations like that and Music Export Memphis. And, there's some serious stakeholders in this town who've made a real investment in the arts.
Yeah.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
So you've been a promoter for over 20 years. When you look at, you talked about some of the other outdoor amphitheaters. We talk about Crosstown, and they're building their Live Nation partnered, venue that'll be about 1,500 to 2,000 seats. You got the Forum, you've got the stuff in South Haven. Some people will say, well, that's too many. It's too many venues. Memphis can't support it.
Oh, I mean, I would argue that Memphis doesn't have the venues, doesn't have enough music venues. I think at the bar and club level, we're doing okay.
Yeah.
We're doing okay. And again, there's an appetite here for it. We could have we could probably do a whole series on what the music industry is today, what Memphis is today, and how we can combine those two to make it, the music city we all hope it can be. But to get back to the question, I don't think Memphis has a great live music venue infrastructure, right?
Yeah.
I love Minglewood Hall, but even with satellite coming online, I think that we have the population, both the numbers and, all the indicators would say to me that we could have multiple venues at that size.
Yeah.
We have Bank Plus Amphitheater at the large amphitheater size, and then we have 2 arenas in Landers and FedEx Forum. All 3 are successful as is. All 3 can do more volume, I would say, and still continue to be successful. That said, what we do have is a big gap. It's a jump to go from Minglewood Hall to Bank Plus or to a Botanic Garden to something like that. What we don't have is this kind of mid-sized room right now. Let me take a step back, because if we were to go from the small rooms to the clubs of Minglewood and Satellite, then all of a sudden you have Cannon Center and the Orpheum. That's 2,000 and 2,800 capacity, give or take. Don't hold me to it again, respectively.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're jumping to an 8,000 Lander Center, and maybe I'm missing something in here, but that's what we're aiming to do. Is we're aiming to be the next step on that ladder. In the 5,000, the 4,000 to 5,000 capacity range out at Grind City Amp.
And I constantly forget it's called the Satellite. I keep calling it the Crosstown venue, the new one that they're building. But it's called the Satellite, the Live Nation one. I mean, it is interesting. Like having talked, Todd Richardson from Crosstown was on the show. You can search that up on Sidebar, talking about the venue. He's definitely one, and I think I've heard other people, and it sounds like you are a person that when you fill these gaps in sizes, which are big differences to people who don't go to concerts or people who don't maybe follow the industry, and I kind of follow the industry, but I do go to a lot of concerts. The jump from 2,500 to 5,000 to 8,000, those are huge jumps.
Big gaps, yeah.
In the cost and the scale and the experience. I mean, you go to a FedEx Forum, I've been to plenty of arena shows. They're great, but it's not as fun as being in a small club. And it's totally different than, it was probably the last year it was open, being at Mud Island Amphitheater, which did feel like it was crumbling under your feet. But the music and the show was amazing to be outdoors. The Shell's a great outdoor. All these things have different characteristics, right? And then also the economics. Mm-hmm. Live Nation is who it is and does what it does. And there are lots of mixed feelings about that. I get it. But they are who they are in terms of certain number of acts that they're going to attract, right?
Well, look, if I'm in Crosstown shoes and you're looking at how you can make a venue like Satellite Music Hall successful, Live Nation is a great solution for it. Yeah. Quite frankly, and again, I don't want to get too far off topic here, but it's a challenging market. Memphis is super challenging to promote and book shows and do it confidently here. And then to your points, the cost of doing business and scaling and making economically feasible, it's a challenge across the board, and even more so in Memphis. So if you want to make a hall like Satellite successful, and you got a Live Nation promising, I think they promised, or 100. So don't hold me to it. But I read somewhere that they promised 100 shows. Quite frankly, I don't know that there's another promoter in the world that can do that. I mean, they have the content and they have the ability, and their business model allows them to approach this differently than an independent promoter might. And I should be the first to say I worked for Live Nation for a short time. I actually have a lot of experience looking at Mud Island, and my experiences at Mud Island are what took me to Grind City.
Well put. It's an incredible place to see. I only saw 1, maybe 2 shows there, and it was incredible.
It really is. And, I can see the dream. But going right back to it, the economics of it make it very difficult. And I think some people kind of look back at it through rosy tinted glasses a little bit. Yeah.
Well,
it'd be a real challenge to do a modern production out there. Yeah. So yeah, I love it. I love the idea. But I also love what we're building.
Yeah. No, I think it's all like, I'm as big a historic preservation person as there is, but I think also sometimes those kinds of memories then cloud our judgment about moving forward. Right. Crosstown itself, it had to be completely reimagined. They weren't going to turn it back into a distribution center. They had to completely reimagine. And even the original idea for what Crosstown was going to be was much more artist. I always joke with Todd, like artist colony. And he's like, it wasn't an artist colony, but it was more of that kind of cooperative artist thing. And it turned into something more commercial with a big art component that now even has more of a music component. I mean, these things have to evolve.
I mean, Crosstown is a community to itself. Again, I applaud everybody who was involved in making that a reality. And the fact that it exists in Memphis, the fact that it exists anywhere is a marvel. The fact that it exists and is successful and is so as impactful as it is in Memphis, is just remarkable. So,
yeah. Circle back to Grind City Amp. Some of these venues, there's not a right or wrong answer to this. I've been to venues in places where they're really, in other cities, where it's like, we're going to be high end, really high end. Or they're going to be, no, it's kind of more food trucks and it's not that high. Do you have a sense of what you're after in terms of the experience? And again, I don't mean that as high end is better. I've been to some venues where I'm like, this is too high end. Like I'm uncomfortable. This doesn't fit the music.
And that's really interesting that you brought that up, because I was actually just this is something I've been debating internally and with colleagues. Not in relation to Grind City necessarily.
Sure.
Just in general about what makes the best venue, what makes for that excellent venue. Is it a massive budget that you can do everything state of the art? Or is it more about the vibe and the experience that you're creating? And I do think, and to be quite frank, we can't match Live Nation budgets. We're not making, a state-of-the-art technological investment. What we are doing is making a sincere investment in doing a venue that can produce entertainment at the top level, at the most professional level, and trying to create an experience and a vibe for our fans, for our artists and our employees that are working there that is exciting and interesting and just fun at the end of the day. At the end of the day, we just want to book some rock and roll shows, right?
Right.
And have a really good time doing it. So in order to do that successfully, you have to be able to pull off. I want to say, state of the art. We're not quite there. We are top level professional.
Well, but you also have the advantage of this incredible location and outdoors. And if people haven't been there to see this location, it's really remarkable.
It's going to have a vibe about it. It's going to have an experience. It may be in the first couple of years before we can continue to build out the infrastructure, more of a festival style vibe than a Ascend Amphitheater in Nashville vibe. But I think it's perfect and representative of Memphis and representative of Uptown and is really going to be a fun place to see a show.
In your experience, and there's probably not one answer to this, but what are, if not the thing, it's probably the things, turn around to the bands. What do the artists want in a venue these days? And how has that changed over time that you've been doing this?
Yeah, it's amazing. Just in my career, I've seen it. And then just over the whole history of live touring, it's become more and more important to cater to the artist. A large chunk of our investment actually goes backstage, behind the scenes, to things that the fan doesn't necessarily see. That isn't to say that we are, shorting the fan or robbing Paul to pay Peter. Flip that around. You know what I'm trying to say, right? But we do spend a lot of time thinking and investing in the backstage experience. We are trying to get, and this is, this is part of the uphill battle of booking shows in Memphis, right? We are trying to get those A-level artists to come play what is right now an unknown venue in Memphis. We have to be able to deliver an experience. So if you're familiar with the Grind City Brewing site, you'll know the big Quonset huts.
Yeah.
So that is getting converted right now into back-of-house facilities. So within that, we'll have 6 different dressing rooms, production offices, a communal space, catering space, showers, washer, dryer. So when you're on tour, and I've spent a lot of my career on tour and on buses and doing that whole thing, you know, you roll in venue every day to a new venue to venue, and that's your home for the day. So now me being on the venue side of things, what I'm trying to do is open my doors to a bunch of guests and let them feel at home and make it as easy a day as possible for them and as pleasurable a day as possible for them, because that's going to lead to the best show that night. That's going to lead to the best experience, which means that they're going to want to come back. And, you know, who knows where they're coming from or where they're going from. If they're going to a venue 120 miles west of us the next day that's similar, it won't be as good of an experience as they're going to have here in Memphis, right? At the same time, if they're coming from Huntsville and they played the Orion Amphitheater, they've just had a true world-class experience, right? So they'll be able to come to Memphis, have a great day coming from and again, tens of millions of dollars went into that development. You know, we're a $3 million development.
Yeah, sure.
So it's about kind of meeting all those things. How can we make the most of what we have? And we have to focus on the artist experience, because they'll go back to their agent and go, yes, that was a good day. That was a bad day. And that's really we're relying on them to get a lot of these. And again, we're selling Memphis. You know, as much of trying to put numbers on paper to make a good business deal, I am putting a little sales pitch together for what Memphis is and what the live music scene is here to stakeholders with these artists or talent agencies or whatever it may be, that only see Memphis through the lens of the PR that's going out, right? That don't understand how great of a city this is or the passionate crowd that is here.
Am I right? We only have a couple minutes left. I think I'm still right about this. For so many artists, I mean, take the biggest of the big acts out for a second, but they're really making their money touring now, because streaming just doesn't pay as much. I mean, there was a time when you could make a lot of money with CDs and with albums and so on, but that streaming is just not great for smaller, really great artists. And so you've got to tour more to pay the bills. Is that fair, or is that changing?
Yes and no. And that dynamic is changing. Again, you know, this is
and I'm
something I could talk a lot about the unbalanced music economy and why things are, and the challenges that everybody has right now. It's never been more expensive to tour. At the same time, artists are making their money on the road. And, you know, that paradigm has really switched from the 80s, 90s, where they were making a lot of their money on recorded music, and touring was the loss leader to sell more records. Now the music itself is almost the loss leader to sell tickets and everything else that can go with that. But, you know, I would like to, you know, everybody's getting pinched at all levels here. At least on the live side of things. Especially independent venues, especially independent artists. It's a challenging time.
Yes,
it's a challenging.
I'm glad you do this, and I'm glad all the musicians do this as a big fan of live music and all that. But
it's a challenging landscape to be operating in right now.
It's really interesting. We're almost out of time, but I always ask people at the end of the show, which will be interesting with you, what was the first concert you went to?
Oh man.
And people have different ones. Like some people, it's the first one maybe with their parents and they were a kid at the fair, or there's the first one you used your own money to buy a ticket. Like there's not, people hesitate, and it's really funny.
The first time, so I grew up on in a small rural community in central Wisconsin. We lived on a farm. We didn't farm it ourselves, but we were way out, right? So the first time I ever snuck out of the house and went into the big city of Milwaukee was to see Green Day and Blink-182.
There we go.
With Eve 6, right?
That
was one of my first formable
15-ish, 14-ish.
Yeah, I wasn't driving at the time. I had to have like an older kid pick me up and take me into town.
No, I love that.
We bought tickets the day of. We were second row. It was an MTV tour, so we ended up on MTV. Like the whole deal.
That's fantastic.
Green Day is still was maybe that first favorite band I had at like 13, 14 when an older cousin gave me the record Dookie. I remember it to this day. But otherwise, it might have actually been Bon Jovi. was one of the first ones, and I think there was a Beach Boys concert in there early on. So
Beach Boys was, I think, the first show I can remember. I was like 4 or 5 at the fair with my mom, and there was like this stuff going on over there. And like, what's that? And she goes, "That's the Beach Boys." And we like looked through like whatever for a few minutes, but that doesn't really count.
Yeah, and it would have been a similar experience. But I actually there's this great music festival in Milwaukee, and I know we're running out of time here, called Summerfest. It's the world's largest music festival. At the time that I was working at it, I think in my peak year, they did 1.2 million people, like over 900 bands. And it was like, I remember the city was like all mad that the ticket price had gone up to $15 from $12. And like you can see Dispatch and Willie Nelson and, Pretty Lights, all like Imagine Dragons, tickets. Right? Exactly. All on the same night and all these free stages right on Lake Michigan. But I was very fortunate to have like a family connection to that. So I grew up going to Summerfest as a kid. We were down there at the lakefront, seeing live music. So it's it's in my blood a little bit.
We look forward to learning more. We'll be covering Daily Memphian. We'll get you back as you get deeper into this whole thing. Nick Barbian from Grind City Amp. All right, that is all the time we have this week. We will see you again next week.